Hello, welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me on another of my interviews. Now, you may remember a few weeks ago, and over the last few weeks, in fact, we've been covering the story of Clive Freeman, a man who's committed to prison for a crime that he did not commit, and he's been in there for a huge amount of time. If I'm correct, over 30 years, well past the amount of time he would have been in had he have been guilty. But he is a man who is very principled and a man who is determined to show his freedom, to show his innocence, I beg your pardon. Now, we have a very special guest who has met Clive on a number of occasions, and that is a well-known name, Terry Waite. Now, I remember Terry Waite back in the 1980s, the late 1980s, when he was a special envoy for the Archbishop of Canterbury. And he was a hostage for 5 years, I believe, chained to a radiator. And I remember as a young man thinking how horrific that is. So it's a great honour for me to meet a man who became very much part of history growing up. So hello to both Clive Freeman and to Terry Waite.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, Terry. It's an honour, an absolute honour to say hello to you, sir. And the difficult circumstances, of course, that you had to go through. And it must be rather encouraging for Clive to have such an honourable contact to talk to as well. Hello, Clive. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm still breathing, as I said to you earlier. And I just want to say that I think Mr. Waite was incarcerated for 1,763 days. Is that correct, Mr. Waite?
Yeah, it's 1,763 days, which pales into insignificance beside 30 years. I mean, 30 years.
Well, excuse me for interrupting. It's not 30 years. It's 36 years on Monday, the 2nd of June. I was wrongly arrested.
36.
I was wrongly arrested in Australia on the 2nd of June, 1988.
That's amazing. That's an amazing long period of time. One of the things I think Clive first wrote to me in about the year 2000, about 23 years ago. And many people who have been incarcerated, some who have been justly convicted and others who've been unjustly convicted, if you can put it that way, write to me. And I always try and do what I can. One's very limited as to what one can do. I have no legal training. I have no legal background. But one of the things that I do have is an empathy for those who find themselves in prison. Some people, of course, need to be in secure surroundings, not only for their own safety, but for the safety of other people, of course. That is without a doubt. But it's also true to say that there are a percentage of people who are unjustly convicted, where they are totally innocent of the crime for which they have been convicted. And that category of people, it's very, very difficult indeed to secure their release. I do have sympathy for the parole board, who are faced with extremely difficult cases to try and deal with and to try and get to the root of the problem. But simple justice means that someone such as yourself, Clive, who've been incarcerated for 36 years and would have, had you admitted your guilt to the crime for which you were convicted, had you admitted that, you would have been released a number of years ago. Surely common sense says that no one is going to turn down an offer of getting out early had they been otherwise. It does seem to me to be now totally unjust and unfair that you're kept in those conditions for so long.
Yes.
I have tried, along with many other people, to do what we can to get this case honestly and objectively looked at and dealt with. And so far, it's proved to be extremely difficult. And now, in your latter years, as I'm in my latter years, I'm 84 now, I think the time has come to draw a line under this and to say, right, you're free, you're out. Just get on with the rest of your life.
Yes, if you don't mind, I'd like to say not only is Clive in prison because he will not admit guilt to a crime which he was convicted of, we have now proven that there was no crime. 9 eminent pathologists with over 400 years of experience between them all agree that the pathology for the Crown in Clive's trial failed him and failed justice. They all agree that this guy, Mr. Hardy, Alexander Hardy, to give him his full title, died as a result, more likely, of alcohol and drug intake. So there was no crime. There was no murder.
And the first two,
and Richard Shepherd for the prosecution agreed with these 9 other pathologists originally, because his original conclusion after the first post-mortem, excuse me, was the cause of death, pancreatitis, probably alcohol-related, but he failed to disclose that to the defence at the time of the trial, and for 25 years later, when it was discovered by chance, that original conclusion. So what all the other 9 pathologists are saying was his original conclusion too, but it deceived everybody.
So can I just ask there? Is there an end point that Clive is supposed to wait until, even though he's served much longer than if he had been guilty? Is there a date that he is actually allowed out? I should just point out that we can't, again, this is complicated and rather stupid reason, we cannot see Clive because of the prison rules. So he's in the room, but we can't actually see him, but we can hear him.
Actually, I can answer that because in about 1998, I had a parole board hearing, and my original tariff at trial was 13 years, meaning that I would have to serve 12 years from the time I was wrongly convicted before I was my possible release. And after the parole board hearing, 2 members of the parole board came to me and they said to me, Mr. Freeman, if you change your stance, I didn't even know what stance meant, you could be out within 18 months, because they knew my wife was so ill and she was dying. And they said to me, if I change my stance, and that meant, afterwards I looked up the word, but that meant that if I suddenly said, okay, well, I did commit this so-called crime, I could be released within 18 months. And that would have been about 2001, I would have been released. But I made a vow to my wife that I would never leave prison until I was rightly exonerated, because I come from a country where we were very conservative and very moral, and I promised my wife that I would only leave prison as a rightly exonerated person. And I think I've expressed that many years ago, even to Terry Waite, who's been very helpful to me, giving me some backbone to carry on. I just look at his case and I realize the suffering that he went through. But that is my position. I will never agree to something that didn't happen. I'm a 100% innocent person, and that is the only way I will leave prison, when I'm honestly declared exonerated. That's what.
You see, one has to ask the question, what on earth now is gained by keeping you inside any longer? I mean, I know now, I understand now you're on day release, But what is gained by all this? And surely, had you had the opportunity to be released, to change your stance, as you put it, 22 years ago, and yet you refuse to do that on moral grounds, and you're still there. Can nobody take note of that and hear that and understand that? It seems to me really quite incredible that this case continues.
Well, we have a further application being worked on at the moment. We're making another final application to the CCRC. It does pass the priority status, which you should get a result from that review within 3 to 6 months of the CCRC receiving it. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
I was just wondering. I mean, presumably it's the taxpayers who are funding Clive to be in prison. If he has served well beyond what he would have done if he was guilty, then surely, even from just the tax point of view of people having to pay for it, it seems absurd that he's there, and that he should be released. If myself and everybody else as a tax-paying member of the community were aware of this, I'm sure we'd all be saying, well, this is a nonsense, an absolute nonsense.
One estimate there is it's costing £50,000 a year to keep an individual in prison. And you that's at least $500,000 since 1921, probably a little more.
Also, I'd like to say, Mr. Waite, that this discussion I had with the two members of the parole board, I told them that we were submitting an application to the CCRC, and I was told, they said, if you persist, Mr. Freeman, with what I've spoken to them about, you could double your time spent in prison. Well, I haven't doubled it; I've trebled it, and that is the CCRC just playing games with my case. Terry Wilcock, who's been the backbone of my case, who's helped me so much, will know about. I was given a priority status because of my health situation. I had prostate cancer, but the priority hearing that we have in writing from the CCRC said that my case would be reviewed within 3 months. It actually took 2 years and 7 months for them to hear my case. So that's the situation with the CCRC. I was given a priority hearing. Within 90 days, my case will be reviewed. And it actually took from the 25th of January 2015 to 17th of December 2017 for them to review my case. That's the situation I'm in now.
Yeah. Yes, it's sad.
But we had a recent meeting at Bristol University. We had a conference there, and there was 2 members of the CCRC there. One was called John. I can't remember his second name, but he was, excuse me, the head of the legal department of the CCRC. He was a KC. He spoke to me after the conference. During the conference, I asked the question. I spoke at the conference, and I asked the question of the CCRC, the 2 representatives, what does priority mean? And they said, well, it means that the case could be reviewed within 3 to 6 months, and the status is, I think they said health, time spent in prison, and age, which Clive passes. And I says, well, why did the 2015 application take almost 3 years when he was given priority status? He didn't know what to say about it because, to be fair to him, he didn't know the case in particular, but he does now when they have agreed to sit down with us when we reapply this next application. The CCRC are going to sit down with us and discuss Clive's case, which is a great step forward for us.
Yeah. Clive, I'm afraid that I have to leave because I have another engagement coming up now. But I just wanted to say that I've been happy to talk with you this morning. I'm so sorry that we can't see each other. All I can say is that to exist as you've existed for all those years shows a fact great determination and spirit. And all I can wish for you is that this matter is drawn to a successful and a just conclusion, and that this particular conversation will stimulate more people to take an active part in working for justice for you and also for others who find themselves in similar situations.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Waite, and I really appreciate it. And I would please ask you if you could contact Father Hugh Sinclair, because he's been very ill and he thinks highly of you, as I do. And I know you too have been helping me ever since, well, Father Hugh, since my wrongful conviction way back in 1989. But if you could just have a word with him and mention that you've spoken to me, he'll be very, very grateful.
I will do so. I will do so.
He's
Yes.
also been unwell, and he's a wonderful, wonderful man. So
Good.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch with him. I'll be in touch with him, Clive.
Thank you, Mr. Waite.
Thank you. Yeah, can I just thank you as well, Terry? It's such short notice on coming on. We have got quite a few figures in the background now. Obviously, 3 to 6 months, as Terry mentioned before. With Clive's condition deteriorating, it might not be enough time. So we are trying to get as much publicity on this as possible, on grounds of compassion. You know, maybe on an agreement basis where they will review the case fairly with the possibility of exoneration, because it's such a difficult play that they've given him here. But yeah, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Terry.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So there we are. That was Terry Waite, an amazing man and an amazing privilege to talk to him. I wanted to ask you, Clive, before we break, what keeps you going for the 36 years that you have been enduring this? Terry Waite there for 5 years, chained to a radiator. I'm assuming you're not chained to anything, but 36 years is an incredible amount of time. I mean, if one is lucky, it's nearly a third of your life. But if you're unlucky, it's perhaps half your life. It must feel like that most of your life has been kept in an institution. What keeps you going?
Well, what keeps me going is to get justice. It's not only for me, but there are several people in the prison system that are in the same boat as me, and the system is wrong. You know, you're not defended properly in court, and if there's mistakes made, there's no way of righting them. And what keeps me going is mainly the promise I made to my wife, that I would never leave prison until honestly declared an innocent man, and also to my family. There was a great stigma attached to being a murderer, as I was wrongly dubbed. And, you know, it affected all of my family. So I fight that all the time. And that's the only way I'm leaving prison. And I just thank God for people like Terry Waite and Terence Wilcox, who's helping me with this case. Without them, I would probably be 6 feet under without them. So
bless you, Clive, for that. What are your fellow inmates in the prison, those who are there because they ought to be there, they've been found guilty of whatever? Do you get much sympathy from those people?
Well, it may sound strange, but the prison I'm in now, nobody talks about their circumstances, and I could say that in the whole prison, there's about 500 prisons. I may know 3 people's names. That's all. I just keep to myself, and that's it. and that's the way I've been for many years.
Well, if you could do one thing before you are totally released, what would be the one thing that perhaps has been in the forefront of your mind that you could do when you got out? What would that be?
Well, I'd be so grateful to the people. Some of them are in this room now who've
Yes.
helped me, and help comes from many different directions. There are some very, very decent people who have given some of their time to me, and I must mention Father Hugh and also Sister Agnes. They were both involved in the Birmingham 6, the Guildford 4, the East Ham 2, the Bridgewater 3. And very sadly, Sister Agnes died about a month ago, and she was a wonderful woman. And the thing that I must mention is I've met such good people like Terry Wilcox, who's sitting in this room right now, and Aaron, and people like that who are helping me. Now, you've got to say to yourself, why are they helping me? It's just that they see an injustice and they want to fight it. And I'm only one person, but there are several people like me that I know of in prison who shouldn't be in prison, and that don't get the help that I'm getting right now. Well, I know it's taken 36 years for me to get to where I am now, but please God, it will soon be over.
Well, we really hope that. We know that there's the petition, which I shall put in the description as well, to try and raise as much awareness as we can. And let's hope that more people can sign that, and we can get this thing dealt with, that you can get out, and other people who shouldn't be there can also be released, because it's a huge injustice. And if we're going to have any faith in our prison service, then it's got to be for those people who are innocent and clearly innocent and have been proved innocent, are not residing in prisons where they should not be. And it's a sorrowful state for this country that people like you, Clive, are having to endure this, when clearly you should be free to do exactly as you please. And you should have been free for the last 36 years, for goodness sake.
Well, I thank you so much for what you've said, and for putting this podcast and helping us. But I think Winston Churchill said, "You judge a population by you judge a society by the way it treats its prisoners." And in Britain, the justice system is wrong. They do not admit to their mistakes, and that's something that must be sorted out. As I said, it's not only me. There are several people like me that deserve the same sort of help that I'm getting now. But it's taken me so long to get the help that I'm getting.
Yes, no, absolutely. Well, I really don't know what else to say other than let's hope that something happens very soon, and that your health continues to improve rather than anything else, and that you do manage to get to see freedom for yourself and breathe some fresh air on the English country before it's all too late. My big thanks to Aaron and Terry, who you've seen sitting in the room. Clive is just hidden underneath the camera, I believe. What have you got planned for the rest of your day release today?
Well, unfortunately, we have to go within about half an hour back to the police station, where I have to sign in, because that's a condition of the day release. So even though I'm on a day release, I'm still, under the lash or the leash of the prison. I have to go and sign in again, and
yes.
Then so that's just something that I have to do right now. But anyway.
Well, I hope that the rest of your day is as pleasant as it can be. You've got two fine gentlemen. I've had the pleasure of meeting both Terry and Aaron not so long ago, and they are fine gentlemen, as you know, and they've been looking after you and helping. So,
I would just, sorry to interrupt, but
of course.
I don't know when you're going to cut off. I'd just like to say that I have two 22-year-old grandsons and 3 other grandchildren, which I've never seen. So I'm hoping that this Terry Wilcock will be able to facilitate that this podcast goes out to them as well. And they're all in Zimbabwe and South Africa. And I'd just like to say to them, God bless you, and please keep in contact with me. I haven't seen my family for 36 years. So that's my grandchildren I've never seen, but I just hope this podcast goes out to them, and I just say what I've said to them. Yeah. God bless.
And just again, coming back to those stupid rules, how appalling that your grandchildren, if they can get to see this, they can't even get to see you through the podcast.
I'd just like to say that in 1997, when I was expecting my first appeal to be heard, my wife applied she's a South African citizen. She applied to come over to be with me for my appeal. My wife was still alive then. My wife and my daughter were going to come over, and the British government in Pretoria refused her a visa to come, a 3-month visa to come to be present at my appeal, which I thought was going to be heard in 1997. The British government refused them. That's to me, that's wrong. When the government changed in South Africa, when Nelson Mandela, that great man, came in power, she would have been able to come. But because it was under the old apartheid regime, the British government refused her permission to come and see her husband.
Yes, you've had a really tough time, Clive. I'm amazed that you're still with us, to be honest. I think many a weaker man would not have put up with all of this, and would have found perhaps if possible an easier way out, if you know what I mean. So well done for you for your endurance.
And one last thing, I'm not a South African. I love the country South Africa, but I didn't like the government that was in power when I was last there. I'm a Zimbabwean. I was born and bred in Zimbabwe, so I'm just putting the record straight.
Yes, absolutely. Well, listen, I'm going to have to go, but I hope that you have the best day that you can under the circumstances. My thanks to Terry and Aaron for facilitating today. And there we go.
Richard, thank you so much. I mean, the amount of help that you've given us, and just on the drop of a hat, you've managed to help us every time when it's been necessary. So yes, we really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I mean, these are very important things. And a big thank you again to Terry Waite, who came on there, who, as most people will know, unless they weren't around in the 1980s, I mean, that was a huge thing that I think affected a lot of people when they discovered he'd been chained to a radiator for 5 years. But as he said, 5 years starts to pale into insignificance when it's 36 years. But anyway, there we go. Thank you so much for joining us. Do look at the petition, which will be in the description. Very important. Time is running out, as you'll appreciate. We must get this sort of stuff in front of the powers that have the ability to change this, so that all people who are in prison, who shouldn't be in prison, can finally get out. I'll be back with more.
Sorry, Richard. Sorry to interrupt you. You sort of sign it and share with 5 others that will definitely sign it and get them to do the same.
Absolutely, yes.
Exponentially.
Yeah, sign and share is the best way to get that round. So and for those people who've not, if you're sharing it with people who've not seen the interviews, then send them the video, because once you understand the case, compassion will just overwhelm you, and you'll want to sign, umpteen times if you could. Obviously you can't, but you can send it out to 5 other people. I'll be back.
It's clear to see the abortion of justice, for sure.
Yeah,
an absolute
definitely.
Abortion of justice.
Right, that's it from me. I'll be back with more interviews and more reports and bits and bobs. But take care, Clive. Look after yourself as best you can.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon.